Steph Curry is now sitting, ready to address the media. Let's listen in.
Like physically, were there any hiccups, or was everything pretty smooth out there for you?
Everything was smooth for the most part. Just understanding. It was nice to get back out there. It was nice to feel a playoff vibe again, and obviously it's different, coming off the bench and trying to make the most of the minutes that are appropriate right now, and had to kind of control the adrenaline for those first 6 minutes until I got out there, and everything went fine. And, obviously watching JP do what he did, Draymond bringing the energy, defensive presence, just IQ, Clay getting off to a great start. And then, everybody else stepping up and playing an amazing game. It was nice to just be out there with my guys and step in the right direction.
Can you take us through the decision to come off the bench, and do you expect that to continue into game two?
I have no expectations on what's next. We're always trying to figure this out because this is kind of a tough situation to deal with in terms of the quick ramp up that I've had, and this is a playoff type intensity and atmosphere. But I learned a lot just from even just watching Clay's comeback, knowing there's a energy to start in terms of this. That's what I do. It's what I expect. But there's also like, how can you make those minutes the most impactful? And when I watched him go through it when he came back, that's a long time he was sitting. The end of the first and most of the second, and you're trying to find a rhythm. So I want to play kind of, I guess, a constant pace throughout the game, and knowing what my allotment was, that coming off the bench and playing those 6 minutes to end every quarter was probably the right move. And we'll see what happens with me and Rick's conversations with how I come out the game and respond tomorrow and into Monday.
Got to first say, impressive jacket, coat. Are you able to visualize the potential for the three-guard lineup when you guys are out there with Wiggs and Draymond, and just how good it might be able to be?
If you look at it on paper, you look at what we all can do, there's just a lot of space on the floor. And a lot of shooting, a lot of playmaking. And if we can defend and rebound, you push in transition, like, it's really hard to guard us. So technically, I guess we're undersized, but you have to bring a defensive force and effort and energy, and then you can, again, just turn that into an advantage on the other end of the floor. See JP be able to make plays in the pick and roll with me and Clay spaced, and Draymond setting and Wiggs slashing, like, kind of, it checks a lot of boxes off on the list of, like, what would you want for a potent offensive, lineup. So if we can do the job defensively, it puts us in a good position to make teams kind of pay on the other end.
We had talked about that group for a while. I don't know if you maybe played a couple minutes before this one together. Did it feel natural? I mean, Jordan came in and just went boom, 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 boom with you guys. Was it natural? Did it take a little adjustment? What was the feeling like?
I was just playing basketball, and really it's kind of an easier transition because you just keep things simple. Like, the matchup works where you put, Jokic in a lot of pick and rolls, and then you have to have good spacing on the backside, and people don't turn the ball over, you're probably going to get a good shot. Thankfully, we made a bunch of them tonight, and the only difficulty I could see is, if you have a guy getting a hot hand, just making sure you put him in the right positions and don't overcomplicate it. And, we'll continue to grow with that group. And even if you throw Otto out in that, lineup, we have options. Andre as well. Like, we got different looks to kind of answer different matchups as we go along.
How easy, it's teamwork, but how easy is it for someone like you or Clay to just say, okay, Jordan, go do it for a couple possessions here, given everything you guys have achieved?
It's more just because he's capable, and you give teams a different look. Like, again, if you put him in the pick and roll, the play make, you got, Draymond in the pocket, you got me and Clay on the backside. I don't think teams have gone through scenarios where you're trying to decide who you're going to come off of. So, again, we just have to keep things simple, be decisive, play with that type of confidence in each other. JP's a part of that now, and he's demonstrated he's ready for pretty much any moment.
Steph, on that note, to what extent is Jordan's play and his presence, to what extent did that make you willing and comfortable to ease your way back into that?
That's a huge part of it, especially how he finished the season, the last 2 months, basically. But it's also confidence in what we do as a team, and I think it's like the third time I've done it in the playoff series coming off an injury, so I've got a little bit of experience, but it's also like just that I can hopefully provide a lot of energy when I come off the bench, but the way JP and Clay started the game offensively gave us a big boost, so we'll see how it goes the rest of the series.
Steph, Jordan had that play with about 3 minutes before halftime where he came in transition and cut back and forth through the key for that layup, and you guys stared each other down. And then Andre came out at one point in the second half onto the court and talked to him, and he said there's no better feeling right now than having the vets who've been through this, support him and give him that kind of guidance. Do you sense that he's just soaking it all in and just going for it?
Absolutely, that's his personality. He hadn't lacked confidence in himself, but it's also, again, trying to make sure he understands how he can influence a game, influence a series. It's nice to know, like, after probably the first 3 minutes when he got his bearings straight, that he remembered it's just basketball. It's just the same way he's been playing the last 2 months of the season and everything he's done to prepare himself for this moment. So once you get over that mental hurdle, kind of just become more free. And that play embodied it because, you just have the creativity, confidence in yourself to make a play. You don't second-guess yourself, and you kind of live with the results. And we've all done it for years, and he's stepping into that now. So it's fun to see.
Steph, you got it.
Steph, you had mentioned the other day that a big part of the rehab process for this injury is just managing it. What does that look like for the next 48 hours?
I mean, a lot of ice. It's tough because there's a balance between the rehab and therapy part and managing it, but also trying to get as much work in to get my skill set right. Because I talked about it, like the first 3 weeks, I literally couldn't do anything on my feet. And then you have a 10-day stretch where you have to be mindful of how much I'm on my feet and doing all that stuff while I'm trying to get reps in and get shots up. And Rick came up to me during the second quarter, and I already knew it, but he was just trying to remind me, like, I only had one scrimmage, and you're trying to match playoff speed and all that. Like, I've been through it, so I have an expectation. I know, like, how to do it, but it's also a reminder of the big picture, what we're trying to build towards. No, I'm trying to play for 2.5 months, so yeah, it's a tough balance because tomorrow, like, I'd love to just go get shots up and all that, but got to clear some hurdles first.
Steph, it's one game, and this is one series, so that's my disclaimer. But I'm curious about your perspective on the bigger picture. If you go back to regular season, you guys come out the gate like crazy, and so title contention becomes part of the conversation immediately. Then you're navigating injuries and all these different things. By the end of it, Phoenix is jumping ahead. There's a big gap, and the conversation around your team has changed. Did you need a game like this where you see how dynamic these guys can be together? Because you're not just beating the Nuggets, you're taking it to them in the kind of way that if you can replicate that, then you have that swagger back where there's one goal in mind. I mean, does it change the outlook at all?
For the guys that have been there and understand what that journey is like, and at this stage of the season and the playoff chase, like, yeah, you start to kind of think about, like, what's next. That is because we've been there and we know there's no guessing, but it's also like a reminder that this group hasn't done it yet. And so no conversation in the locker room or in our practices, our preparation is about anything other than how do you win game one, how do you win game two coming up Monday, and then take it from there. That's the only way we're going to get to where we want to go. So yes and no. Like,
what about for you, though? Like, you look at the box, and you're like, I'm still finding my way back. I'm coming off the bench tonight. And you know, for you, this is a blow. I mean, you're getting comfortable. But then you took it to him. I mean, that's a pretty good sign, no?
It's a great sign, but it's if you look at years past in our runs, even from 2015, you know, that first year, like, we swept New Orleans, and then we were down 2-1 the next series and had to, you know, face a little adversity. So you know that's coming at some point. And how we'll respond, we'll see. But right now, it's just literally about, I guess, yeah, to your point, taking that confidence from game one. How do you double down on that next game? You know, find kind of your niche plays, your go-tos, pet plays that you want to form an identity around, whatever lineups are going to be the most potent, and then hopefully when you look up, you got 4 wins in this first round, and you're starting to go back to the drawing board and understand the challenge only gets harder. So, yeah, there's a good energy and a good belief in what we're doing and that we can be that team, and it's not just talk, but at the same time, this team hasn't done it yet, so we can't get too ahead of ourselves.
Steph, do you ever, in a defensive matchup, worry about if Draymond can handle it?
Oh, never. His IQ is crazy just in terms of like being able to make those adjustments based on who he's guarding, what challenge it is. And he's just always in the mix. So, you know, he don't have to prove, you know, who he is anymore, but he continues to go out and impact the game. You know, past, like, the eye test is crazy when you watch him, where he's at on the floor, looking overmatched against Jokic in a post-up situation. Like, he finds a way to just make his presence felt. So it's great to see him peaking at the right time after all he's been through this season.
You've obviously had a front row seat the last month and a half to Jordan's, I guess, surge, especially with the stuff he's been doing with Draymond, the DHOs. Are you ever like, kind of looks like me out there a little bit?
Well, yeah, because our system, it's predicated on ball movement and player movement and everybody being in sync. And you know, Draymond's obviously talked about his defensive IQ, his offensive IQ as a playmaker. Depending on how guys are guarding him, he makes sure to get everybody involved. And there's some patterns that JP's figured out that make the game a little bit easier. But he's also different too. He's got that shiftiness and, you know, change of speed and stuff. And he just continues to find a way to make the defense pay for how they're going to guard him. So it's going to continue to elevate from here.
Steph, how important is your defense when you're going this small unit? And did you understand that this has been your best defensive statistical season? And how proud are you of that?
I need that clip from him, and I need to send that to Mike Brown. Because we have this, like, defensive grade thing and some other, like, metrics that he's been.
Did you win Player of the Month?
Early in the season. But anytime he comes at me with some pointers or whatnot, I'm going to play that clip for him, let him know that I'm here. Appreciate you.
You got a nickname for that closing unit yet?
No, that's y'all's job, right?
It's your job.
I did it once. I don't know.
Yeah. See, it's hard to keep doing it over and over again. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard stuff we all do, right?
I did it once.
Absolutely.
Steph, Steve said Draymond was clearly, like, wired, and it was very important for him to get to game one. Did you sense that he was, like, on edge and beaming for, playoffs, get back into playoffs?
For sure. And this was an interesting week because you finished the year strong. He played a couple of back-to-backs to get his body going. And then you got to wait 6 days while the playing tournament's going on, which was obviously fun to watch. But you get sick of. I think I might have been the only one that. I think I said it yesterday. I was the only one that enjoyed practice because that was my only time to get reps in. Everybody else is coming off that end of the year good stretch, and they just want to keep playing and get back out there. So yesterday's practice was kind of funny because it was preparation, but everybody was kind of pissed off. That was another day to have to wait. And today was just a different vibe, knowing the game was here, and we had an opportunity to go out and just compete and enjoy a playoff atmosphere again. So Draymond definitely brought the juice today, and we'll need more of it.
You know, I got to ask you about the shoes. You pulled out the Curry 6s from 10 in the town. That was obviously a tribute to my high school, correct?
Obviously.
What was behind the motivation for pulling out the classics?
It was that. It was knowing we hadn't been in the playoff series since Oracle, so kind of passing the torch off. But there's also some tech stuff in the shoes for my foot just to kind of make sure I was in good shape. So I was like my Forrest Gump. I just trying to learn how to run and walk again situation. It was great. There were some great moments, and like I said, it's still a young building and environment, and you're trying to find its identity. But it was loud at times, and we went on some runs. There was a moment, I don't know if it's the third quarter, fourth quarter, I can't remember. Probably end of the third. I think we got up to like a 18, 20-point lead, 18 or something like that, and GP got fouled on transition. And it was almost because the lead was so big, you lose like the anxiousness of the moment, and that's where